Hello F11 members and welcome to the Fundamentals of Post-Production video tutorials for issue 84, January 2019. Happy New Year, and on the screen in front of you you see the before and after of a picture I shot just a week or so back in Reunion, a wonderful tropical island in the Indian Ocean. You can read about that trip in Behind the Lens. You can read about the location in What's in a Picture, and you can watch the video blog as well. But now let's work through the post-production on this image. And there are a few problems that I need to deal with this picture. As you can see, the image on the left, the raw, straight out the camera, shows a sky devoid of detail. There's also a little bit of haze in the picture, and I really need to lift the shadow detail in the foreground. Quite a contrasty lighting situation. I used a filter on the shot, although you wouldn't really believe it looking at it. I was very conscious of avoiding a visible grad line along the top of those mountains. But in the image on the right, you can see what I've managed to pull back from the what appears to be completely blown out sky. So let's go back to where we started then. So if I go to Loop View and I come right back to Import, and this is the image straight out to the camera. I've just got my standard default settings that I apply on import to the picture, which is a little bit of sharpening and a teaspoonful of vibrance there, and removing chromatic aberrations as well. Okay, but otherwise I need to start work on this picture. But as always, it's best to take a look at the picture and decide what I need to do. What I'm going to do is make 3 different versions of this image from the same raw file, one optimized for this distinct foreground area, one for the mountains in the distance, and one for the burnt out sky. Why am I doing it this way? Predominantly because I want to use dehaze, a touch of dehaze on the middle ground, on the middle part of the picture, the distant mountains. But I find that the dehaze tool really adversely affects the tones in skies. I don't like it at all, so that's why I don't want dehaze on the sky, which is why I've chosen to do it this way. Hopefully all will become clear as we work through the picture here. So let's start then with this, just looking at my foreground really to start with and ignoring everything else. So as usual, I come down here and I'm looking at my black and my white points, and as you can see, there's a contrasty image, so any adjustment of black and white will end up with clipping somewhere in the image. So for example, my highlights, if I try and move my highlights to the right, I'll start clipping detail in the sky. But I'm not concerned about that really, because I'm just looking at my foreground at the moment. So I'm going to bring my highlights way up to my whites, sorry, right up to about plus 49 there. And I'm going to look at my blacks. Well, I can't really adjust my blacks. If I hold down my Alt key and move the blacks to the left, you can see I immediately start clipping blacks. So the thing, I'm not touching blacks. In fact, what I really want to do is pull back some of this shadow information in this dark area at the bottom of the image, these dark green conifer trees. So I'm going to push my shadows in this area quite radically up to round about plus, or I'd say there, plus 46 is good for me. And now I'm looking at my tone curve in the image as well. And I just want to add just a touch of contrast to that picture, to my foreground. So I'm going to boost, put it, and brighten it at the same time. So I'm just going to adjust the shape of the tone curve there to brighten and at the same time adjust just a hint, or introduce just a hint of contrast. And I'm also going to dial in just a bit more vibrance on that foreground there. Okay, so that's I'm just looking at this area of the image and I'm happy with that. So I'm now going to export that and open in Photoshop. So whilst I'm doing that, I'm just going to put you on pause, okay? Okay, so I've done that. So I'm going to go back into my develop module now. And now what I'm going to do is look at this middle area of the image. So I'm going to pull back. I don't need all that shadow boost on this area of the picture, so I'm going to reset my shadows to 0. And I'm going to add down here a touch of, well, a fair bit of dehaze, quite frankly, about plus 30 dehaze. You want to, it's a tough one, this. How much do you do? I mean, haze. An element of haze looks natural, but it can rob the picture of impact. So it's a real tricky judgment call. I'd say be very wary of going too far with the dehaze slider. But I'm going to go about plus 30 here. And I think that's looking about right. But the dehazer does tend to make the colors go a little bit gooey, okay? So I'm going to pull back my vibrance now on this area of the image because I've introduced that dehaze. So I'm just going to have literally plus 2 on there, plus 3 say. Okay, and the next thing I want to do is re-examine my tone curve. And I think actually it looks about right as is. Actually I could just put a touch more contrast in there, I think. Okay. And now, see, I'm still ignoring the top of the bit, but the screaming highlights at the top of the picture in the sky. I'm just ignoring those at the moment. I'm only concerned on this middle area of the picture. And again, I'm now going to go back into library mode, export that and open it up in Photoshop. Okay, so I'll just pause you again while I do that. Okay, so now let's go back into Develop module and devote our attention to the sky in this picture. So first I'm going to come down to my tone curve and reset that. So I'll go Custom and click on Linear. That's reset the tone curve. Clearly I need to do something about these screaming highlights. First thing I'm going to do is pull back, take all of that white adjustment off, but coming back to 0 on my whites there. Now I've still got some clipped highlights there, as you can see. So this is a job for highlights recovery. So I'm going to move that to the left. I'll go to round about quite a way with this to about minus 50 on my highlights there. I'm going to pull back my dehaze as well. I don't want any dehaze on the sky. And next thing I'm going to do is use my tone curve to just pull back the tones in the sky there. And I'm also going to just adjust my blacks a touch here. I can afford to go back on my blacks. I'm not concerned about those tones at the bottom there. And I'm going to introduce a grad filter to just darken down the top part of the sky there. So let's do that here. And I'll move that right down here, and then just on my exposure, pull that back. I obviously don't want it to look too obvious, that grad. So that's probably going to be about right. There, done. And I'm now going to pull back my exposure on my sky as well. And I think that's got the kind of tone I need in the sky. Obviously I can't go too far else it'll look unnatural here. But one thing that I'm noticing now that I've pulled back these tones in the sky is, I don't know why, maybe it's something to do with flare or the filter, or I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you'll be able to pick it up on the video as well, but in this top right hand corner there's a distinct magenta cast which kicks in round about here, the transitions round about here, and it looks completely unnatural. Now when I saw that, my heart sank, because these kind of problems are very difficult to deal with. And nevertheless, I'm going to give it a go, okay? So I've now done all I can to optimize that sky. So again, I'm going back into library mode and export that and open it in Photoshop. So we're going to move on to part 2 of this month's video tutorials to continue working on this picture, but in Photoshop. So just to recap, what we've done so far is made 3 different raw conversions of this same image, one optimized for the sky, one optimized for the mountains in the distance, and one optimized for the foreground of the trees. Now I'm going to merge them using layer masking in Photoshop. So we'll see you in part 2. Thanks.